You've been triggered before by someone's tone, someone's silence, someone's ignorance. And what happened next? They walked away, but you carried it in your chest, in your sleep, in your spirit. That's the real cost of emotional weakness. They press one button and suddenly you're not yourself. You're reactive, defensive, wounded. But what if they couldn't touch you? What if you could walk through insult, betrayal, manipulation, and remain untouched? That's not numbness. That's power. And today, I'm going to show you how to get it. But listen, don't skip, because the thing that's been hijacking your peace, it hides in places you don't expect. By the end of this video, you won't just know how to control your emotions, you'll stop mistaking noise for truth. And that shift alone will change how you respond to life itself. The Stoics had one mission: master the inner world, because when your mind is yours, nobody owns you. They didn't suppress emotion, they commanded it. Because every emotion is a signal, but not every signal deserves a reaction. Today, I'm walking you through the exact signs you haven't yet mastered your emotional world, not to shame you, to free you. Because he who angers you, conquers you. And I don't want you conquered anymore. These are the signs. 1. You confuse reaction with strength. Let me ask you something directly. When someone insults you, and you clap back instantly, who's really in control? Because the moment they say it, and you react, you're not leading the moment anymore. They are. You felt powerful. But what actually happened was this. They pressed one button, and got a predictable result. And anything predictable is controllable. We've been sold a lie, that quick comebacks, emotional outbursts, or shutting people out is strength. But in reality, most reactions are untrained emotional habits. They're not decisions, they're default settings, coded by old wounds, unmet needs, and unchecked pride. You think, I stood up for myself. But what you really did was protect your ego, not your peace. There's a difference between defending yourself and being defensive. True strength is not how fast you react. It's how deeply you reflect before responding. And you know this because after the heat dies down, you often regret what you said. You replay it. You rehearse what you should have done. You feel exhausted, not empowered. That's your soul telling you, this isn't mastery, this is survival. Imagine a cup of boiling water. You bump into it, and it spills everywhere. Burns you, burns others. That's your emotional world when it's always full. But now picture a deep, still reservoir. You drop a stone in, it ripples, but it doesn't overflow. That's the Stoic emotional state, present, aware, but not owned by external force. Because here's the truth, when your peace depends on other people behaving, you've already lost. That co-worker's tone, your partner's attitude, your friend's silence. They shouldn't have the power to rearrange your internal state, like furniture in a rented room. You live there. Why let someone with muddy shoes rearrange it? Think of the last argument you had. Was your reaction built on clarity, or a deep need to be right? Were you defending truth, or just trying not to feel small? And more importantly, what if you had paused? What if instead of reacting you observed, breathed, responded from a higher place? The outcome might have looked weaker from the outside, but inside, you'd still have your dignity, your alignment, your center. And that's worth more than any ego victory. The world doesn't need more emotionally reactive people. We're drowning in them already. What it needs is people who can hold tension without becoming it. You want to be a rock in a storm, not a leaf in the wind. And that starts when you stop confusing reactivity for righteousness. So next time they provoke you, don't be quick. Be still. Watch your ego twitch. Watch your story flare up. But don't move yet. Because that space, that breath, that choice is where your real power begins. And if you want to be emotionally untouchable, master that pause. 2. You attach emotion to every opinion. You walk into a room, and someone barely makes eye contact. Instantly your mind starts running. Are they mad at me? Do they not respect me? That right there is how people live, trapped, not by other people's actions, but by the stories they create about those actions. You don't just witness what happens, you assign it meaning, you take it personally, you attach emotion, and that's where the suffering begins. Here's the truth, no one tells you. Most people's reactions have nothing to do with you. Their shortness, their silence, their sarcasm is about their own inner world, not your worth. But when your self-image is fragile, you interpret everything as a reflection of you. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "You always own the option of having no opinion." Because what he understood was this: the more you personalize everything, the more your emotions become a hostage to external noise. You're not actually responding to life. You're reacting to the narrative you invented. It's like this. Imagine someone tosses you a letter. You open it and see harsh words. You feel attacked, insulted. Your heart races. But what if that letter wasn't meant for you? What if it was misdelivered? That's how opinions work. Most of them were never truly addressed to you. They come from people's insecurities, projections, pain, and yet you open the letter, read it 100 times, and let it dictate your worth. Ask yourself right now, whose letter are you still carrying? Not every opinion needs a defense. Not every cold shoulder is an insult. Not every silence is rejection. But if your first instinct is to feel offended, that's not insight, that's insecurity. Reflection moment. Think back to a moment when someone criticized you. Now ask, was the pain in what they said, or what you believed about yourself, that made it feel true? That's the emotional landmine. It wasn't their words, it was your unhealed interpretation. When you stop assigning emotional weight to every comment, glance, or action, you free yourself. Because, let's be honest, how many times have you ruined your own day, not because something happened, but because of how you told the story? You deserve better than to be yanked around by every passing thought or opinion. Detach from the noise, anchor into truth, not emotion. And the truth is simple. You are not what people say, what people do, or what people don't say. You are who you choose to be, consistently, calmly, consciously. So the next time you feel that sting, pause. Ask, what am I attaching here that doesn't belong? Not every wave deserves your energy. Not every opinion deserves a reaction. And not everything they say is worth you feeling. Let them talk. Let them drift. You stay rooted. Because peace doesn't come from controlling what others do. It comes from not letting it control you. 3. You don't have a philosophy. You have mood swings. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your philosophy. And if you don't have a personal philosophy, then your days and your emotions belong to chaos. You're calm 1 hour, triggered the next, disciplined 1 week, lost the next. Not because you're weak, but because you've built your life around mood, not meaning. See, moods are weather. Philosophy is climate. Your mood changes with how someone spoke to you, how well you slept, how much you've eaten. That's fine, that's human. But your response to life, that should be grounded in something stronger. The Stoics didn't chase good days. They built good principles. Marcus Aurelius had a kingdom to run, and still wrote in his journal like a man battling demons, because he was just like you. But his journal wasn't venting, it was alignment. Every day he reminded himself of who he wanted to be. Why? Because without a code, emotion will make your decisions for you. Think of your emotions like the sea, unpredictable, ever-changing, sometimes stormy, sometimes still. Now imagine a sailor with no compass, no map, no destination, just reacting to every wave. That's what most people are doing. But now picture the Stoic, sailing with a steady hand. The winds come, the storms hit, but the direction is unchanged, because the principles are set. That's the power of philosophy. It gives your soul a center that doesn't move just because the world does. Let's slow down for a second. Ask yourself, what do I believe about life, about myself, about how I should respond when tested? Most people don't have an answer. They've built routines, not reasons. They've collected goals, but no guiding values behind them. So when life tests them, they fall back into survival mode, into defensiveness, into overthinking, into emotional chaos. You can't meet deep challenges with shallow beliefs. You need a deeper well. And here's the quiet tragedy. If you don't define your code, the world will do it for you. So how do you begin? Start small. Ask, when I'm angry, what do I want to stand for? When I'm tired, what part of me stays awake? When I'm disrespected, how do I want to carry myself? You don't need 1,000 quotes. You need 3 values that are real. Maybe it's composure, maybe it's honesty, maybe it's inner peace over outer noise. Then train that, rehearse it when you're calm, so it shows up when you're not. Leave a comment right now with one principle you want to live by, not for the algorithm, for your identity. Because you don't rise to the level of your feelings, you rise to the level of your framework. You don't need more motivation. You need more meaning. You need a code that you've chosen, that you've tested, that you trust. Because in a world full of emotional storms, your philosophy is your anchor. And if you don't have one, everything and everyone will move you. If this is helping you rebuild your center, subscribe, not for me, for you. Because this channel isn't about motivation, it's about reconstruction. The version of you that no longer flinches starts with what you feed your mind daily. Join this space, build your center, become emotionally untouchable. 4. You think forgiveness means they win. You think forgiving them lets them off the hook, that it says it was okay, that they get to walk away clean while you're left with the pain. But here's the truth, most people don't want to face. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. Because as long as you hold the grudge, you're still carrying them with you. And that's not justice, that's emotional slavery. You replay the betrayal, you analyze the disrespect, you rehearse the argument in your head, hoping it'll make you feel stronger. But all it does is deepen the wound. You don't heal by gripping tighter to what hurt you. You heal by releasing what no longer serves you. Forgiveness doesn't say, I approve of what you did. It says, I refuse to give you any more of my life. Because every time you get triggered thinking about them, they win again. Not in public, in private, inside your nervous system, inside your peace. The Stoics knew this. They practiced detachment, not just from things, but from the emotional poisons that come with unforgiveness. Epictetus said, if someone does you wrong, that's their action. But your reaction, that's your responsibility. It's like drinking poison and expecting them to suffer. The anger feels powerful until you realize you're the one burning from it. Ask yourself, are you punishing them, or just punishing yourself again and again? Here's a deeper question. Are you done yet? Because as long as you're keeping score, waiting for an apology, hoping they feel the weight of what they did, you're not free. You're still in the prison they built, a prison where they don't even have to show up, because you do it to yourself. You bring them into your day, into your energy, into your decisions. That's not self-protection. That's self-abandonment. They may have hurt you once, but you keep reopening the wound every time you hold on to the grudge. Forgiveness doesn't make you weak. It makes you untouchable. Because the real win isn't making them pay. It's living in such peace that nothing about them lives in you anymore. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. It doesn't mean you let them back in. It doesn't mean what they did was right. It means you've chosen your future over your pain. It's not soft, it's sacred, and it's one of the most stoic things you can do. So ask yourself, What's one thing or one person you've been holding on to far too long? Drop it in the comments. Not for them, for you, because you deserve to be free. And forgiveness isn't surrender. It's emotional liberation. 5. You seek to win arguments instead of mastering self. Every time something triggers you, that's not just pain. That's a door, a signal, a flare from your subconscious saying, look here, sit with this. Something inside is unhealed, but most people don't sit. They run, they react, they distract. And by doing that, they miss the very thing that could have made them stronger. You can't become emotionally unshakable by running from what shakes you. A trigger isn't just a random overreaction. It's a mirror, a messenger, a map back to your pain. That sarcastic comment that made you explode, maybe it touched an old wound, not of insult, but of feeling unworthy. That moment you got defensive when your friend gave feedback. Maybe it poked the scar of never feeling good enough. You think it's about them, but it's not. It's about the version of you that still hasn't felt seen, protected, or healed. And if you never pause to investigate your trigger, it keeps driving the car while you think you're in control. Imagine your emotional system like a guard dog. It doesn't think, it protects. Loudly, instinctively, aggressively. But what it's protecting isn't always under threat. Sometimes, it's just a memory. A fear, a version of you from years ago that still hasn't found peace. That trigger, it's like the guard dog barking at shadows. And until you go into the house and sit with the child it's protecting, you'll never know what the barking is really about. Ask yourself, what part of me is still trying to feel safe, seen, or certain every time I lash out or shut down? Sitting with your triggers doesn't mean wallowing in pain. It means confronting the truth beneath your reaction. It means asking yourself in silence, why did that hurt me so deeply? What does this moment remind me of? What part of me is still raw, still seeking closure? I never got. Most people never ask these questions. They blame, they project, they cope. But you, if you want peace, have to go deeper. You have to become the observer and the healer. The trigger is the doorway, but sitting with it is the key. The Stoics practiced stillness for a reason. Not to numb themselves, but to learn themselves. Because every moment of silence is a chance to pull the thread, to figure out where that emotion really began, to understand before you act, to reflect before you speak. And when you do that long enough, the trigger becomes powerless. Not because it disappeared, but because you faced it fully, and it lost its hold. You can either live avoiding the pain, or you can become the kind of person who sits in it, and comes out stronger, lighter, clearer on the other side. You don't need to fear your triggers. You need to study them. Because on the other side of that discomfort is your peace. What's one trigger you've been running from, that you now realize is asking to be understood? Sit with it. Don't run. Because nothing controls you once you understand it deeply. Bottom of Form 6. You've never sat with your emotional triggers long enough to understand them. Most people avoid silence, because in silence, the real work begins. When someone triggers you, it's never just about them, it's about what in you got activated. A wound, a story, a fear. You can't outreact your way into healing. The Stoics didn't run from pain. They interrogated it. Why did this hurt me? What fear is this connected to? What story am I still believing about myself? Do that long enough, and no one can use your past against you, because you've already faced it. And that is how you become untriggerable. Control doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you own what you feel, and direct it with wisdom. The goal is not to be hard. The goal is to be rooted. Rooted in clarity, in peace, in philosophy. So the next time they try to bait you, you'll remember the strongest person in the room is the one who doesn't need to react. Hold your center, feel deeply, but rule consciously. And remember this, emotions are messengers, not masters. Like, share, and subscribe if this shifted your perspective. Comment below which point hit you hardest. And if you're ready to become emotionally unshakable, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay grounded, stay awake, and never give your peace away for free.